So some of us have been arriving and settling for about 20 minutes, and some of us have just walked in the door. So let's take 3 breaths together to get ourselves synchronized. We'll inhale, and then see if you can make each exhale a little bit longer than the previous one. Are you ready? In. And in. And one more. Welcome. It's good to see all of you.
I want to extend a welcome also to everyone in the house and everybody online. I'm Brian Frederickson, your worship associate this morning, along with Reverend Gail Marriner. And we have Lynn Raymond, soft, beautiful touch on the piano this morning for our music. Thank you for the tech team, John, Michael, Jim, for bringing the online folks inside. We want to thank the office staff, Doug and Mary and Aaron, and the greeters, the parking lot patrol, the folks who make the coffee and the goodies. We appreciate everybody's effort. Our opening song this morning, if you would turn to page 163 in the hymnal near you or on your chair. And this is for the earth forever turning. If you'd stand, please, if you're able.
Would you join me in following the instructions in the opening words? So we touch the floor. To remember, or the chair, the back of the chair in front of you, something down low. Okay? So we touch the floor symbolically. To remember that wherever we bring our best self is holy ground. And we reach for the sky to remember we are part of a mystery much larger than ourselves. And we hold hands. To remember that we need one another and are part of one human family. And we join voices, as we just did, to remember that we each have a gift to offer the world and to use in making the world a better place. Please be seated.
We'll light our chalice this morning, and you folks at home may do the same to the words of a poem by Mary Oliver. It's entitled Autumn Equinox. It is a truth almost splendiferous, the way it lavishes on us its light, not grudgingly, not stingily, nor begrudgingly. And as we are soaked in it, we also are fed by it. A reading from Nora Bateson entitled Somehow. Somehow we have to carry trauma and stay imaginative enough to rebuild a society that cares. Somehow we have to stay angry enough to fight and tender enough to stay sensitive to the nuances of mutual learning. Somehow, from the fragmentation of human constructs, we have to find a way to perceive and participate in the unity of life. Somehow, we have to.
So happy autumn equinox and happy Sun Day and happy Rosh Hashanah, which begins tomorrow. We are reflecting this morning on what we can learn from the natural world, because it's autumn equinox, and that always makes me look out the window and see what wisdom might be there. Today we're reflecting on the sun's steady fire, which powers everything on our planet. The weather, the seasons, what grows, what lives, what dies. But strip off our planet's ozone layer, stop the Earth's spin or straighten the Earth on its axis, or reshape our planet's elliptical orbit to something more circular, and we would freeze or burn. The sun's intensity is modulated by the ozone layer and by the atmosphere and by the Earth's daily rotation. It's tempered by our planet's tilt and its elliptical orbit. Even though the sun provides all the energy that all of us need to live, we cannot survive its unmediated force. With atmosphere and the patterned cycles of dark and light and warmth and coolness, our planet becomes a Goldilocks zone for emergent life. So I want you to notice two things here. There is continuity and stability in the light of the sun, but there is also constant, continuous, patterned, pulsing change in the spin and the ebb and flow of the tides and in the seasons. At equinox, we're invited and reminded to think about this dynamic balance, this changing, shifting, spinning, dancing balance that enables life. And I think we're invited to reflect on the ways that all of those pieces, all of the different ecosystems and organisms that respond to those pieces, fit together like slowly morphing pieces of a puzzle that ebb and flow and cycle and change in response to the sunlight and the darkness, the heat and the cold, the dampness and the dry. And since we evolved here on this continuously changing spinning planet powered by the sun, it seems like we might expect ourselves and our communities and our culture to morph and evolve and change. But I have yet to meet a human being who says, "Oh, I love it when everything changes." You know? Somehow we prefer predictability to change. I don't know if it's an innate thing or if it's a cultural one, if it's something that we're taught. I wonder if we can learn to appreciate things being continuously changing, to see change and adventure and opportunity and uncertainty, and to let go of the need for control. I wonder. The world isn't static. Human beings certainly are not static, as all of those who experience the aches and pains of getting older sometimes know. Our culture isn't static. Everything changes and moves. So on this autumn equinox, when we're in that place of balance, right, between the light and the dark, how does attending to the truth of change help us stay balanced in the midst of the political and ecological chaos that are swirling around us? A thought.
We place 4 stones in our candle bowl to remind us of 4 deep commitments. The mountain stone reminds us that the land where we gather is the ancestral home of Tewa-speaking people and their descendants, that we're committed to ending the othering and oppression that disrupted their belonging to this place. The geode reminds us that, excuse me, that the seeds, that the seeds of peace are hidden in every conflict, and we are called to tend those seeds. The fossil stone reminds us that this place was once an ocean bed and may be one again. Climate change is real, and we need to care and act on behalf of this planet where we belong. And finally, the banded stone reminds us that democracy is real and fragile and worth protecting. May these commitments guide our actions.
too many things to hold on to here. Stay. So we set aside a time every Sunday morning for the sharing of our sorrows and our joys. We do this for many reasons, but among them are the insights that when we have a grief as a burden that we are carrying, it's easier to carry if others help us. And if we have a joy, well, it's multiplied when others celebrate on our behalf. So if you would light a first candle for Adrian Digneo. This is a candle of support. Adrian fell several weeks ago and has just discovered she has a serious back injury. She is awaiting more information on next steps, positive energy, and probably emails and phone calls would be appreciated. Mary Nykirk had surgery last Monday, and again, follow-up surgery to close the surgical wound on Friday. She started PT yesterday. She is hopefully being moved to rehab at Christus tomorrow. She also would appreciate your positive energy, your good thoughts, your text messages and emails. Mary Ellen Gonzalez has a joy. UU Santa Fe was mentioned twice in Church and State, a national publication of church and state separation, because the Freethinkers of Santa Fe hosted their CEO in July. Yay. We have a joy. Tencha has marshaled the most wonderful cast of neighbors and friends to facilitate her return to Santa Fe by the end of October. Thank you, Jim Applegate. Dominique Mazot will lead a forgiveness ritual for self and others by the water tower at the rail yard from 1 to 3 today as part of the Sun Day celebrations. All are welcome. If you cannot make it, please know that we are hoping to have her recreate the ritual for us on a Sunday in October. We have joys. Nita Meeks, Deborah Bolt, and Jerry McKinney all have birthdays this week. Nita is turning 92. Jerry is turning 100. Happy birthday to all. If you didn't get a chance to sign the big birthday cards for Nita and Jerry, there are other cards to sign for them at the card rating table in the foyer. We also have cards for Mary Nykirk, and I think also for Adrian, so go and take a look. We have 2 visitors today who signed in. Wave if you're extroverted enough that you're willing to wave, otherwise. Nancy and David, both from Dallas. Welcome. All right. I also need to let you know, and this is a candle of concern and support, Dell Wilkinson was supposed to sing for us this morning. Throughout the service, he has a recurring medical issue that is getting worse. And so please, he's unable to be with us this morning. I think he's looking towards surgery. Send him your regards and some healing energy. All right, so holding these sorrows and joys in our hearts, let's light one last candle, knowing there are also sorrows and joys we have not yet shared. And then let's sing Spirit of Life. If you do not know the words, it's 1, 2, 3 in the gray book. Otherwise, just follow along. resting now on the echoes of the music, let's move into a time of quiet and contemplation. I invite you to close your eyes if that's comfortable for you, to take a deep breath, and as you exhale, to consciously let your body relax. Breathe. Let any of that tension you might be carrying between your shoulder blades or in your jaw, let it begin to soften and dissolve. As you exhale, let that tension exit your body on your breath and drift away, to be transformed by the sunlight and the rain and the earth. Breathe and let your thoughts drift. Let your heart soften and open. Feel it expand and unfold until it can cradle all of the sorrows and the joys, all the worry and anxiety, all the anguish and beauty that are part of being human in these times. Breathe. And as we rest together in the quiet, I invite you to let yourself become aware of the other people in the room, of those who are here breathing with you, of those who are watching online with us in this moment and in the hours and days to come. Breathe. And know that you do not have to carry the sorrows and joys of the world, or even the sorrows and joys that are particular to you, all by yourself. We are held, each of us, in a network of affection and regard, in a community of presence and agency and hope. And we will get through this together. Breathe, friends. And as we rest together in this moment, I want to offer you a poem from Galway Kinnell. It's a reminder of our intrinsic belovedness. It's titled St. Francis and the Sow. The bud stands for all things, even for those that don't flower, for everything flowers within of self-blessing. Although sometimes it is necessary to reteach a thing its loveliness, to put a hand on the brow of the flower and retell it in words and touch, it is lovely, until it flowers again from within of self-blessing. As St. Francis put his hand on the creased forehead of the sow and told her in words and in touch the blessings of the earth on the sow, and the sow began remembering all down her thick length from the earthen snout all the way through the fodder and slops to the spiritual curl of her tail. From the hard spininess spiked out from the spine, down through the great broken heart to the blue milken dreaminess spurting and shuddering from the 14 tits into the 14 mouths sucking and blowing beneath them. The long and perfect loveliness of sow. Let us rest together in the quiet and in the music.
A reading from a book called Combining by Nora Bateson. It's down here in front. Complexity and interdependency are messy. The relational processes at work are in motion, always calibrating, changing, and compensating. In between the hours, the phases of evolution, in between being professionals and parents and lovers and friends and patients and citizens and activists and athletes, in the liminal land of being alive together in this incoherent Monet, there is mutual learning. Between us is the genesis of the ability to perceive and respond to the complexity of this time.
Nora Bateson is one of the daughters of Gregory Bateson, who was one of the founders of systems theory and cybernetics, and who has been practicing seeing our world and our cultures through a different frame. And I've been working through her book, and I'm trying to see through that frame too, and I'm not sure I'm there yet, but every now and then I feel like I get a glimpse. And it's exciting enough that I wanted to share a little bit about it. And I also want to remember to invite you to feel yourself reminded of your own beauty today and your own intrinsic goodness, so that you can blossom with self-blessing in the days ahead. So when we draw our attention to the solstices and the equinoxes as part of our UU liturgical year, one of the things we're doing is intentionally creating spaces where we can ask, what can nature teach us? What can we learn about ourselves by observing the natural world? This isn't something new to UUs. We've been doing it for a very long time. Our transcendentalist ancestors believed that revelation was ongoing and that God's guidance could be discerned just as easily by reading the natural world as by reading the sacred texts of the world's religions, and so they attempted to do both. And so do we. This autumn equinox, this day that activists and children are celebrating the power of the sun, we look to nature and the seasonal cycle to see what we can learn that might help us navigate these politically and environmentally challenging times. The first mini homily reflected on the idea that nature teaches us that change is part of the order of things, and that is true. If that's what you're looking for out there in the world, you can find change as part of the order of things. In this homily, we're going to add a couple of additional notions to that idea. We're going to think about complexity and interconnection. Because when we look out the window or walk through the woods or sit in a room full of people, we are reminded that nature and human nature are not simple. They're never just the thing and the absence of the thing, but the interweaving of a thing and its absence, and the breaking apart and combining of things, and the addition of third things. So the natural world isn't just dark and light. We also have twilight and daybreak, and cloud shadows across folded mountains, and snowlight and moonshine, and the dappled light of the sun through the golden aspen leaves, and the sparkle of sunlight off ripples in the water, and the flash and after image of lightning. Nature is not just winter and the absence of winter, but winter and summer and false spring and true spring and autumn and monsoons, and fire season and thaws, and snowstorms and dry, open seasons. It's not only land and water, but marshes and sloughs and salt flats and mires and swamps and deserts and icebergs and slush and snow and cloudbursts and floods and droughts and beaches and river-worn valleys and hills and cliffs and mesas, all the different permutations of earth and water combining in different moments. Human cultures and human relationships and human individuals are also changeable and equally complicated from this world that we emerged out of, with many degrees of love and family and friendship and neutrality and strangeness and alienation and sometimes enmity, with many different kinds of hierarchy and egalitarianism, many religions, many languages and histories and foodways and folkways, many different natural and human ecosystems, many kinds of technologies and degrees of sophistication, many kinds of woundedness and trauma, many hopes for a better future, many different visions of what that future might look like and what should be done first to move us toward that future. All of it happening all at once, complicated and changing. And as if that weren't enough, complicated, changing, and interconnected. Once you start focusing on the interdependent nature of everything that is, many of those connections become fairly obvious. It's easy enough to see connections in families, but watch the news and it's easy enough to see the economic interconnections that are happening and playing out right now across communities and nations and economies. Although we don't always understand the consequences that flow through these interconnections, or how actions in one place will play out someplace else. It's not hard, well, it is hard to watch the political actions that are happening, but it's not hard to see how actions in one state or nation reverberate in other states and nations. And the same is true environmentally. Actions by any single player are felt by everyone in the system. Now, as Unitarian Universalists, I think we have a little heads up on this understanding of interdependency, because we've been living with that idea of the interdependent web as one of our core principles for a couple of decades. So it isn't really that hard for us to grasp the idea that the world we inhabit is complex and changing and interconnected. But it's still hard to extrapolate the consequences of these three linked ideas, because much of the way that our culture teaches us how to think directs our attention mostly to objects and to actors, and the things that the actors do to the objects. Now, this way of thinking, which is a very Enlightenment way of thinking, is really useful for problem solving, for fixing, for controlling things. But it misses the complexity of all of it. The complexity of individual interactions, the changeability of people and groups, the importance of the context in which something begins to unfold, and the interconnections between us that allow actions in one place to influence events somewhere else. Would it be helpful, I find myself wondering, and this is one of the questions that Bateson poses and that systems theory more broadly poses, would it be helpful if rather than focusing quite so much on the actors, the actions, and the objects. We focused instead in the space between those things and the relationships among them. Okay? Have you ever done that little exercise where you're invited to define who you are by listing all the relationships that you're part of? You know, that you're a daughter and a mother and a sister and a you and a member of this congregation and a graduate from this place. We did something a little like this a couple of weeks ago. But think about it in terms of the relationships that you are part of and how those relationships constitute in some way different pieces of your identity. So that when you are in the unfolding of your relationship with your sibling, you are quite different in that moment, perhaps, than who you are when you are in relationship with your work committee or community, or your faith community, or your dog. Life is unfolding in each of those relationships in a different way, and all of them taken together are a part of the unfolding mystery, blossom, beauty that is you. Have you ever had the sense that the memory that you're grasping at, or the information that you need is just out of reach, just beyond your peripheral vision? That's what's happening to me as I read Gregory and Mary Catherine and Nora Bateson, as I read Margaret Wheatley or Terry Tempest Williams and her spouse, Brooke Williams. That's the other book that's up here. This wonderful little book called Encountering Dragonfly, Notes on the Practice of Reenchantment. And if you wonder what that means, go back to the Galway Kinnell poem and the idea that we need to be reminded of our intrinsic worthiness and beauty, which is always there, so that we can blossom, of self-blessing. As we try to navigate this incredibly complex and upsetting and often dehumanizing time, I wonder if a different frame of reference, this focus on relationship, might surface different kinds of information that would let us respond to the unfolding circumstances in different, novel, and life-affirming ways. What if, rather than reacting to the most immediate crisis and getting riled up and upset, what if we took a breath and began to trace our relationships, whatever they might be, to the sun, to each other, to the solar panels on the roof, which power our congregation and keep our lights on, to the forgiveness ritual Dominique is offering down at the rail yard. What are our connections? What is the ecosystem, the web that connects us to each other and the rest of the world? And how does it hold us and empower us to act in the circumstances where we find ourselves? It feels to me like focusing on the depth and quality of our relationships and the density of the webs of affection and obligation and trust between us, and doing that in ways that support and uphold diversity in life, might be crucial to our ability to survive and to thrive. And so in the days ahead, I invite you to notice these several things. First, how everything is always changing. Even the crisis of the moment shifts when you look away and look back again. I invite you to notice the richness and complexity of the world we're in and how everything is connected to everything else. In particular, I invite you to focus on the relationships in which you participate, in that space between you and someone you love, you and someone you maybe don't love, that you encounter who is annoying you, but there is that space there. There is that relationship. And what can we do in that space? It's kind of the same sort of a conceptual space as the space between hearing something and choosing how you'll respond. It's the space between the 2 or 4 or 100 of us, all the spaces between, and what that tells you about who we are together. I invite you to be present to the unfolding relationships in your life with as much tenderness and attention as you can muster in any given moment. Bateson writes toward the end of the book, our solace during this transformation will be nothing less than the creative expression of tenderness. What if, when confronted with the chaos and trauma of the world, we leaned into the creative expression of tenderness in the relationships that are closest to us? All right, deep breath, everybody. It is time for the offering. Who is speaking today from our congregation? I forgot to go and look at the wall. Brian, will you say something?
Happy to do it.
All right.
As your board president, I can tell you we are, as a board meeting this Thursday, to consider, there's a lot on the agenda. And some of those things are a little bit expensive. We've had to replace a couple of these mini, not so mini, maxi splits in the room here. The condenser on the roof needed a lot of work, replacement parts. It's just one of the expenses that we're dealing with in addition to the general upkeep and repair of this building, which is not a young building. And of course, we have all the other expenses associated with running a church. So with that being said, we'll be happy to pass the baskets, and any contribution you can make, we'll lovingly receive it. Thank you.
So then before you start, one more candle of joy. We have a beautiful new painting, collage, in the front room, which was given to us by Lisa Flynn. It is titled, Lisa, help me. We Are All One, and it is created from postcards that Lisa gathered in her world travels. So I invite you to come up and take a closer look at it, both the We Are All One and that sun-like explosion of energy seemed like they would fit this morning. Lynn? extinguish our chalice, no, come on up. Before we extinguish our chalice and go to our hand-holding benediction, I have 3 different announcements I need to share with you. We are living in a very busy time with a lot of important things happening. The first one is from your Advocacy and Democracy team. As you know, there's a battle going on in the Senate regarding a continuation resolution to fund the government through November 21st. The Democrats in the Senate proposed their own budget that would extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies, restore funding that has been frozen, reverse cuts to Medicaid. They also added restrictions that seek to address concerns that the administration is encroaching on Congress's spending powers as they have sought to withhold funds from programs they disagree with even after they've been approved by the Congress. Your Advocacy and Democracy Justice team has prepared letters to each of our New Mexico senators, thanking them for their no votes on the earlier bill, budget bill, HB 1, and urging them to stay strong in the current budget struggle. You can sign on to these letters as members of UU Santa Fe if you wish to. They are on the counter in the foyer here across from the kitchen. So that's an easy way to participate. A second way to participate is to go wander down to the rail yard today and see what's going on in the world of solar energy, because in the middle of all the politics are shaping our response to environmental issues, and showing up there can help. This evening, well, one other thing. So there's a workshop today from 12 to 2 in the fellowship hall, which focuses on the metal element which corresponds to fall, the lungs, the large intestine, vitality, grief, perfectionism, letting go, and the art of focus and organization. This is being offered by Dr. Blair Gray, who has a practice in acupuncture and Taoist medicine. If you are curious about ways to enhance your well-being and find out how foods, herbs, and habits might mitigate stress, address insomnia, and build your immunity, you might show up there and ask. In stressful times, we need lots of resources. And finally, we had a wonderful little vigil last Sunday evening. About 40 people showed up. About 25 of them had yellow UU Santa Fe hats. This was a vigil to express concern about political violence and the names of folks who had been assassinated for political reasons in the United States, from Abraham Lincoln through this past weekend, were read, and people lit candles and sang. Now, there is another vigil this evening for International Peace Day, and I'm going to read you the invitation. And if you want to wear your yellow hat and grab a candle and show up, I encourage you to do so. Let us join together this Sunday evening for a candlelight vigil in the plaza to honor peace. Together, we have acknowledged the tragedy of political violence. Together, we have held our grief, fear, and anger. Together, let us begin to dream of a future in which all are welcome, in which we seek to help one another to understand and heal the wounds of past hurts. Together, let us touch our common humanity and begin to heal. Among the cool grass and enduring trees, we can recognize our connections with one another and the rest of creation. You are invited to bring your voice, instruments, candles, all the parts of you that yearn for our nation and all nations to be whole. So, 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. So we start in the light and then go into the darkness and light our candles. All right, friends. Can we have words for extinguishing our chalice?
And we'll extinguish our chalice by words again from Mary Oliver, a poem called Song for Autumn. Don't you imagine the leaves dream now how comfortable it would be to touch the earth instead of the nothingness of the air and the endless freshets of wind? And don't you think the trees, especially those with mossy hollows, are beginning to look for the fires that will come, 6, a dozen, to sleep inside their bodies? And don't you hear the goldenrod whispering goodbye, the everlasting being crowned with the first tuffets of snow? The pond stiffens, and the white field over which the fox runs so quickly brings out its long blue shadows. The wind wags its many tails, and in the evening the piled firewood shifts a little, longing to be on its way.
If you would join hands with someone who is sitting near you, we will end repeating words together. May love and skill be in our hands.
May love and skill be in our hands.
May love and courage fill our hearts.
May love and courage fill our hearts.
May love and wisdom light our minds.
May love and wisdom light our minds.
May love flow through us and walk among us.
May love flow through us and walk among us.
As we live our lives and work to heal our world.
As we live our lives and work to heal our world.
Amen, shalom, namaste, blessed be. Assalamu alaikum, ashe, aho. Please turn, friends, and greet your neighbors and go out into this beautiful day. Thank you for joining us today, friends. We hope that you enjoyed today's service. Please take a little time and explore our website and visit our online welcome table if you'd like to know more about us. Otherwise, we'll see you next Sunday morning. Stay in touch and be well.